I treat them like an adult, and sometimes they're a bit shocked because they're not used to that treatment. Because these 15, 16 years old are treated like kids, they act like kids. They act like kids because we treat them like kids. Treat them like an adult. And it's going to take a while because they're not used to it. But give them that intellectual respect. Treat your kids with respect and maturity. This to me is one of the biggest issues that I find, that there's always this trivialization. No doubt you know more than your kid. We all know this as parents, you know more than your kid. But you know, your kid also needs to learn some things of life by himself or herself. Treat them with an element of maturity and realize that in our Sharia, a child becomes an adult at the age of 13 or 14. Not 18, not 19. A child becomes fully baligh at the age of 13 or 14. Maximum scholars say is 15. As soon as puberty hits, that child is no longer a child. In our religion, there's no such thing as adolescence. There's no interim where you're a kid but you're not a kid. No such thing. That's the difference of our religion. You treat a 15-year-old like an adult, and you know that's my philosophy. Any person who's 15 or above, I talk to them like an adult, I treat them like an adult, and sometimes they're a bit shocked because they're not used to that treatment. Because these 15, 16 years old are treated like kids, they act like kids. They act like kids because we treat them like kids. Treat them like an adult. And it's going to take a while because they're not used to it. But give them that intellectual respect. Sit down and have an intellectual conversation with them like you would with an adult. Tell them about your life. Tell them what's happening in the world. And automatically your son or daughter will mature. Stop treating them like kids because they are no longer children. And if that's the case when they're 14, well then by the time they're 9 or 10, you better start laying the foundations for that. This is, in my humble opinion, one of the biggest negatives of this culture we live in, is that they always want to make children more immature than they are. And our Sharia tells us to treat our children more mature. Make them basically think maturely and act maturely. Treat your kids with maturity. Treat your kids as not equals, it's not going to happen, but treat them with the respect and the intellectual maturity that they deserve.
I really think that probably everybody in here is very respectful to their parents. I'm actually more concerned a lot of times about parents showing respect to the children than vice versa, and I'm very serious about that. I think a lot of times so much emphasis is made on children showing and young people showing respect to their parents, and I think parents oftentimes forget that actually that in Islam young people have rights as well. And I'll tell you one story that's a sahih story about a young man who was with his father, and he went into the masjid, and the father gave a very poor man some money, and the young man went back and he took the money from the beggar. He wasn't a beggar, but he was obviously a miskin, and he took the money from him, and then the father said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Because I'm in need of it." And they went to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said that his own son was more worthy of his charity, which is a beautiful indication that they used to go, the son could go to the father, to the Prophet ﷺ with recourse, and traditionally people could go to the qadis as well, and unfortunately a lot of that just doesn't exist anymore. And I personally believe the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, show piety to your parents and your children will show piety to you. That it's a young child's natural inclination is to love the parent and honor them. Anybody not heard all of these ayahs that I'm telling you? Literally, mashallah. I mean, sometimes your parents probably, those are the only ayahs they teach some of the children. Because they're the only ones they know. Everybody wants their perks from the Quran. أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some of the book and you don't believe in the others. Those things that suit you.
نرفع الرايات سوف يعلمون أن نحن المسلمون قادمون حين نرفع الرايات سوف يعلمون أن نحن المسلمون قادمون.